There's always a ray of sunshine that sometimes can occur if you're of the mind to grab it.
For 3 weeks, once every 4 years, I'm transformed from a schlub to a celeb.
The king is Curt. I'm Eddie Feigner. If you're into softball, you might recognize the name. If not, you might have heard of me as a pitcher of the original 4-man softball team.
My name is Dave Blackburn. Believe it or not, I am an athlete. I'm a softball pitcher. No, not baseball. Not slow pitch. Fast pitch.
He's always the big right-hander. We nicknamed him the big right-hander because he was the big right-hander. He was the gentle giant. He was the icon of Maccabiah softball.
I've been the primary starting pitcher for Maccabi USA, the nation's Jewish all-star team. We travel the world.
The Maccabiah Games are a very unique event.
This is my story. Life is the most precious thing that we have. No matter what else is taken from you, you can count your blessings every day. I'm on my way to Israel for my 7th World Maccabiah Games.
And Israel is the cultural and emotional and religious center of Judaism around the world.
Having been there 6 times in the past, I think I know what to expect. But you know what? I think this year's gonna be different. So as you know, I'm flying to Israel again for the Maccabiah Games. Yeah, I have the honor of throwing out the first pitch. Yeah, it should be great. He transformed from schlub to celeb.
The kosher crusher and the mighty Maccabee.
Took things to a different level.
When we are talking about the land of milk and honey.
Land of milk and honey, I don't know. I mean, I'm 26. I'm the dinosaur on the team.
The World Maccabiah Games are multidimensional, and it's proven by our Israel Connect program, where these kids are exposed to Israel, they're exposed to the history of the Jewish people.
And we take them on a cultural and educational experience through the country of Israel, let them experience it, let them feel it, and then let them talk about it.
Getting ready for a long flight, 15 hours to the Holy Land. I'm looking forward to it. Got a lot of friends to see over there. And all of them haven't seen me since this crazy calamity happened to me. So I'm expecting lots of love from a lot of friends.
Dave Blackburn was born in 1960 and raised in the Chicago suburb of Calumet City, Illinois. The 4th of 5 sons born to Charlotte and Ernie Blackburn, Dave was drawn to sports when he saw the admiration his father received as an elite softball pitcher. Dave's father was an Indiana ASA Hall of Fame pitcher, pitching for many teams over his 42-year career, where he threw 99 no-hitters. Dave accompanied his father to nearly all his games as a young boy. At age 5, Dave was impressed with one of Ernie's games in particular. This was when his father pitched against the legendary barnstorming pitcher Eddie Feigner, who was founder of the King and His Court 4-man team. Normally, one of his father's games would be seen by an average of 50 spectators. On the night his father went up against Feigner, there were well over 5,000 people in attendance.
Feigner shows the bewildering technique with which he strikes out an average of 17 batters per game. Playing against capable 9-man teams, Feigner and his 3 teammates have won 378 games while losing only 56. Feigner says he can pitch 2 full games without throwing the same pitch twice.
It was during that game Dave realized that this sport completely evolved around the pitcher. That had great appeal to him.
How did you become so proficient as a fast-pitch softball pitcher?
Well, it's kind of in my DNA, Steve. My father was a Hall of Fame fast-pitch pitcher, and I got hooked on it when I was about a 5-year-old, and I saw my dad pitch against the world-famous Eddie Feigner from The King and His Court.
Oh, wow.
So that really, there was 5,000 people in the stands, and I saw my dad in a different light there as a 5-year-old, and I realized that this is what I wanted to do. And so I just started learning how to pitch, and got to play in youth leagues when I was in high school, and then came to California to pitch for the world champions in 1982 after graduating college.
Sparked by this influence, Dave went on to play many organized sports in school. As the country celebrated the bicentennial in 1976, Dave got the opportunity to launch his pitching career that summer at age 16. There was a youth fast-pitch league in nearby Highland, Indiana. Only problem, you had to be a Highland resident to play ball. Dave was not even a resident of Indiana. Dave was still 2 years from his 18th birthday. Being too young to play in an adult league at age 16 and not being a resident all factored into Dave using his older brother Ray's ID to qualify to pitch in the adult league.
Hi, it's Steve Grant at the Pierre Gildesgame Maccabean Museum. And nobody is shown more around this museum than Dave Blackburn. In fact, this ball right here is from the very first game he pitched in men's fast-pitch softball back in 1985. All he did was strike out 15 and throw a no-hitter.
That is how Dave threw his first game of the over 1,800 games he would throw over the next 35 softball seasons. Among all of those games was 70 no-hitters.
I'm Eddie Feigner. If you're into softball, you might recognize the name. If not, you might have heard of me as the pitcher of the original four-man softball team called The King and His Court.
In the summer of 1958, I would witness an event so incredible, so unbelievable, so strong, so athletic, so talented, good-looking, one of a kind, original. How is this possible?
You may wonder why we play with 4 men instead of 3 or 2. It's because we need a man at bat with the bases loaded. And someone always asks, what would happen if the bases are loaded and the man at bat strikes out 3 times? Well, that actually happened twice. We got rid of him.
He faced Roberto Clemente, Maury Wills, Willie McCovey, Brooks Robinson, Harmon Killebrew, and Willie Mays. The King struck them all out in succession and K'd Pete Rose twice.
Why do they call Israel the land of milk and honey?
Yeah, land of milk and honey.
Is it Old Testament?
Why do they call Israel the land of milk and honey?
I'm not really sure.
The hell if I know.
I don't know the real answer to that.
In Chicago, on Thanksgiving Day of the year 1887, Yale and Harvard alumni gathered at a place called the Farragut Boat Club. And the reason they gathered there was to listen to a telegraph and teletype results of the Harvard-Yale football game. And as the game was progressing and the scores were coming through, one of the alumni from one of the schools took a boxing glove and tied the strings around it to make it like a ball, and then whipped it across the boat club, and it hit one of the other guys in the head. And so he got upset naturally, and he grabbed a broom handle, and he took the ball like a baseball and used the broom handle to hit it right back at the other school's alumni.
There was a period in American history where, softball was huge. I mean, it really almost competed with baseball for a time on the national stage in the 1930s.
Teams were primarily sponsored by bars, by restaurants, by small businesses.
Major League Baseball is actually a little bit worried or concerned that fast pitch and its organization was actually going to become competitive with what was then Major League Baseball.
As you got into more of the national level teams, those teams were sponsored by bigger businesses. They were able to hire players to work in their factories or whatever business it was and bring in players at that level.
A guy by the name of Lewis Roper, who was the fire chief in St. Paul, Minnesota, he had a need to have his firemen get exercise during the cold winters in St. Paul. So he developed a mini version of baseball that they could play in the empty lots next to the firehouse. And they actually began playing up there. So pretty much simultaneously in Chicago and in St. Paul, Minnesota, the game began.
There was a game that I think was fashioned in the Midwest in firehouses and gymnasiums where they started throwing the ball indoors in smaller areas and with a larger ball.
It spread like wildfire and began spreading and getting interesting. And the problem was that every municipality that had some kind of a league had its own set of rules.
Like I said, it was usually a bar, a restaurant, someplace where they would pay the sponsorship fee and the players after the game would go and drink, and the owner of the team would make his sponsorship money back manyfold in drinking and eating after games.
That game evolved into something that was played outside, and I think it was called kitten ball and a few other things. But eventually, by the 1930s, it became so popular during the winters indoors that it got moved outside and became a full-fledged organized sport called fast pitch softball.
My grandfather was on those teams. That guy could just swing a bat. He's actually in the St. Paul Fast Pitch Hall of Fame. It's the best game, in my opinion.
And then William Randolph Hearst, of all people, donated $10,000 to bring the first national softball tournament to Chicago to be played in 1933 at the Chicago World's Fair at Soldier Field, where the Chicago Bears played today. And 100,000 people went through the turnstiles, so they had a reason to create a set of rules, and those rules became part of the Amateur Softball Association. So the association's job was to get the municipalities that were playing this sport now around the country to adapt a standard set of rules and send their championship team through a series of qualifying tournaments to get to a national final championship tournament, which still goes on today. That's the history of softball from the origin standpoint.
You know, I guess we're just about the most unique sports show in the world.
Every time you mention Eddie Feigner's name, there's somebody said, "Oh yeah, gee, when I was a kid, my dad took me out and I saw him, strike out people blindfolded and throw the ball from second base."
While barnstorming around the country, Feigner pitches every day, sometimes in both games of a doubleheader. Pity the batter who never knows when or from where the ball is coming.
If you ever go to Israel, you'll know why they call it the land of milk and honey. The place is fertile, and it's in the midst of a very arid landscape, and what's happened there in the last 50 years is pretty transformative. It's amazing.
Perhaps because it's such a plentiful land, there's so much love and there's so much spirit and a good sense of life.
I just happened to one year subscribe to the American Softball Association's publication, Balls and Strikes. One magazine I was sitting reading had a little blurb that they were looking for Jewish softball players to put the team together to add a team into the Maccabi games in 1985, I think it would have been.
The Maccabi games. How did you get onto the U.S. team there?
Well, the first time the U.S. sent a team to play fast pitch softball in the World Games here in Israel was 1985. So they made an announcement that they were looking for the 14 best Jewish fast pitch softball players in America to take to Israel in 85, and the tryouts were in the fall of 84.
In 1984, played in a big-time money tournament in Vegas, major tournament. We get beat. Dave Blackburn comes over to me after the game. He beat us and says, "Hey, you Jewish?" And I looked at him, I said, "What of it? What are you talking about?" He said, "You Jewish?" And he started smiling, and he said, no big deal, I'm Jewish too. And he said they were going to have the United States team was going to have a Maccabi fast pitch softball team for the first time in 85 in Israel, and would I like to try out?
And I had heard that there was this national tryout being held in Philadelphia for players of Jewish ethnicity, Jewish background, and I said, why not? I'll go.
It's something that you can't explain. It started in 1985 when I first got involved with Maccabi, and we first met some of the players on the U.S. team, and it's continued to this day, and it's continued even so far that you've got sons of the original players from '85 playing against each other in these games in Israel in 2013.
So when I saw this blurb, it was 1984, and I faxed it to Dave, and it had the number, and Dave followed through with it.
So I knew I'd have at least a chance to throw my hat in the ring, and without knowing if there were other really good Jewish pitchers in America. And it just worked out that it was kind of one of those kismet things in life where my life intersected with Maccabi USA through fast pitch softball, and my life got profoundly affected in a positive way. From '85 to 2010, I was the primary pitcher for the National Jewish All-Star team.
I said, I can't imagine there'd be that many half-decent Jewish players around the country. And came out to Los Angeles in the fall of 1984, about 125 guys there, and was surprised by the level of play, and by a whole bunch of the guys.
And we went with a bunch of guys, and another fellow from New York City made the team, Steve Shucker, who, like myself, had never played fast pitch, but had played baseball collegiately. He and I were both very fast and good defensive players, and we made the team based on those skills.
I helped facilitate finding facilities for them to train and to try out. And at that point, I ended up being asked to go along as manager of the team. I saw all the games that they played in Canada, exhibition games, and I ended up coming to Israel as part of the team.
Flying back east to meet the whole team for the first time in Philadelphia, before we went to Israel in '85. I was somewhat anxious. I didn't know what the trip was going to be like. 3 weeks at that time we went to Israel. We met in a room in Philadelphia somewhere before we played against the great Ty Stofflet and the Reading Sunners for the first time. And we met, and I went around the table and introduced myself to everybody, and I realized this is going to be a blast because it was kind of a rare instant bond that I had never really experienced before, and it was just an unusual setting from the get-go.
As soon as we were getting ready for tryouts, a police car came driving up to practice and said, "Is there a Neil Kabanoff here?" And Neil was just about ready to take his first ground ball. And he said, "Yeah, I'm here." And they said, "Your wife's in labor." So away Neil went. He never took a ground ball, never took a swing, but Neil's reputation preceded him, and he made the team. And in '85, Neil hit the game-winning home run that won us the gold medal, helped to win us the gold medal.
Our team was sponsored by Maccabi USA, the nation's sports club for elite Jewish athletes, and I was proud to be a member of that team.
Yeah, I was amazed at the instant camaraderie that developed among the group that was out there. And I was lucky enough to make the team, and in July of 1985, met many of the other players in Philadelphia for the first time, and the rest, as they say, was history.
How does anybody get to be a part of something so magical where life stands still? Nothing else matters. It won't go away. Was anybody else in the stands feeling what I was feeling that night?
As a matter of fact, you might say our show is very much like the Harlem Globetrotters because we combine comedy with the ability to play a game. Better, I guess, than anybody in the world.
But that night when we entered the park, I knew something was different because there was 5,000 people there ready to see my dad's team pitch against the king in his court.
In the Calumet region, Hammond, Gary, East Chicago, Whiting, Indiana, fast pitch softball was a major form of summer entertainment for people. And my dad was the finest pitcher in the Calumet region at that time.
Al's playing in his 19th season with the king in his court. An interesting fact about Al is that he once came to bat 421 times without a strikeout. Al's also hit more home runs to this date than Hank Aaron. Come on out and see Al hit and play first base. He may hit a home run for you.
And what a ball game they put on. I'll never forget it, and it profoundly influenced me to become a softball pitcher.
He had big, strong legs like my father, was getting taller, muscular, big shoulders, big arms, had a natural windmill softball movement, and couldn't throw a ball near a mitt if the mitt had a magnet in it.
For the last quarter of a century, the last 25 years of my life, I went on 10 international barnstorming softball trips where I was the primary pitcher for the National Jewish All-Star team. I learned a lot, I grew a lot. Our team was organized and sponsored by Maccabi USA.
Early dreams for a sports fest of Jewish athletes can be traced back to a group of Hebrew sportsmen in Constantinople who organized a federation called Maccabi in 1895, just 1 year before the beginning of the modern Olympic Games. During the intervening years, they held a series of competitions until 1929, when final plans were made for the first full-scale Maccabiah in Palestine.
In 1984, I was approached to help out find the facility for the first Canadian softball team to go to the Maccabi Games, and my first question was, what's the Maccabi Games?
The Maccabiah Games are a very unique event. To compare it to the Olympic Games are primarily a sporting event where athletes from various countries come by or come and join with the specific purpose of competing, trying to win a medal or trying to do their personal best. And they come, they compete, and then they go home.
We had 78 countries here. It's the third largest sporting event, multi-sport sporting event in the world after the Olympics and the World University Games. We happen to have a higher content of Jewish athletes here, however.
No one in the world does what we do and can do, because sports is such a fantastic medium. You can bring and get interested so many different people in our culture, in our community, through the hook of sports. And that's why I love it.
March 31st, 1932, the Maccabiah Games are opened by Mayor Dizengoff, the first mayor of Tel Aviv. National sporting delegations from all over the world march in the opening parade, the start of a Maccabiah tradition. Says Maccabiah Games creator Yosef Yucatelli, we demonstrate to the world, hundreds of us, the upright spirit of the Jewish people and our desire to build a nation in our own land.
For 3 weeks every 4 years, I went from being, just a completely regular guy who happens to be a good softball pitcher, who plays a lot of softball at home, into a really kind of more like international sports celebrity for that 3 weeks.
I got involved with Maccabiah because I came on Birthright last year, fell in love with Israel, loved it, felt a really big connection with Israel, and I was talking with my aunt, and she always talks about how much she loves Maccabiah and been doing it for years, and said, hey, why don't you come as a manager, see what you can do? And I said, all right, sounds like a good idea.
I came in 1977 for the first time, and I've been here in every single game after that for the last 10 Maccabiah.
And the leadership here of all the people who work and live here in Israel is phenomenal. I wouldn't give up coming to the games for anything. I love it.
It's about exposing Jewish youth to Israel and the people from the diaspora and understanding where they come from and why it is that this little country, the size of New Jersey, surrounded by enemies, is able to not only survive but thrive. That's what keeps me involved in this organization.
1935 and the second Maccabiah. It is called the Maccabiah of the Aliyah. With Nazism on the rise, many of the competitors will choose to stay in Palestine at the conclusion of the Games against the wishes of the British High Commissioner.
The first time I came to Maccabi, I was only 14, so it was a very different experience for me than it is right now. When I was 14, it was the first time I was away from my parents this long, and I was meeting a whole bunch of new people.
I'm so excited for opening ceremonies and to finally get to see all the different countries and be in Israel with thousands of Jews from around the world who are all here for the same reason.
Teams from Poland, Egypt, and Bulgaria make their last appearance in the Games. Posters are ordered for the third Maccabiah Games in 1938. They will be delayed 12 years.
The Maccabiah Games brings Jewish athletes from around the world to Israel, and Israel is the cultural and emotional and religious center of Judaism around the world.
Maccabi USA softball program allowed me, first off, the opportunity to come to Israel for the first time to compete on the United States team, and what it did for me as well, it allowed my parents and also my wife, Sandy, and our 3 children, Alyssa, Evan, and Jeffrey, the opportunity to come here as well to watch us compete in 1989, and allowed us to share and join together in some great times and some great competition.
The summer of 1950, the Maccabiah Games resume in the new independent state of Israel. The symbolic torch is carried in relays from Modim, the historic gravesite of the ancient Maccabees. The runners are welcomed by Dr. Chaim Weizmann, the first president of the State of Israel.
Basically, it was somewhere to go play softball. Didn't realize how it would affect me till I got here the first time in 1985. Then once being in Israel, I felt some special attachment, not only to the country, but to the people, and developed a great bond with my teammates, knowing that everybody was Jewish, and then meeting other Jewish players from all over the world keeps drawing me back year after year.
This is my first and last. This is actually my final gymnastics competition in my life, so it was a pretty awesome way to go out. Decided to make my final competition the Maccabiah Games, and it was a pretty awesome experience. We won gold as the team, which is the first time the U.S. has done that in about 30 years. So it was a really awesome experience.
A new modern stadium has been constructed for the Games in the town of Ramat Gan, a suburb of Tel Aviv. Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion is on hand to witness the opening ceremony.
I've been participating in the Maccabiah Games, the World Maccabiah Games, since I was 16 years old. I was a javelin thrower for the Israeli national team until 1990, and then I was also the track coach for them for years. I started pitching in 1985 for the national team in Israel, and that's when I started actually throwing for them. Played before as a regular player.
It was nice to be with people who were celebrating the same things that I was, and were doing the same things that I were, and were the same age as me, but we also had that one connection of being Jewish without having to know anything else about each other.
To be around this many Jewish people is just absolutely phenomenal and fabulous. I love it.
In rejoicing over the resumption of the Games, all the participants are reminded that since the last Maccabiah, many of the finest Jewish sportsmen and women in Europe have disappeared in the Holocaust, while others have fallen in battle serving with the Allied forces. Among the national delegations appearing for the last time in the Games, Libya is one team that will not return.
Meeting so many young athletes, they've never been in Israel, and they would not be without, otherwise, if not for the Maccabiah Games, they would never come to Israel. Athletes from so many different countries. You didn't even think there are Jews up in those countries, and indeed they are here, they are competing, they're all thrilled to be here.
Organizing the 19th Games United States team took on a life of its own, much more than I ever expected. Between the conference calls, the meetings, the traveling, it was really something that just overtook my life, and it really affected me. It was one of the greatest experiences of my life, and I have to say one of the greatest accomplishments of my life. And I'm sure when the games are done and we go home, we go, wow, we planned for that for 2 or 3 years and it was over just like that. I'm sure there'll be some postpartum depression, but I'm sure I'll sit back and take solace in the job well done.
The 1965 7th Maccabiah Games. American 15-year-old Mark Spitz captures 4 gold medals. And another American University of Illinois basketball star, Tal Brody, leads the USA to a team gold medal, then decides to make Aliyah in Israel. In 1969, Spitz returns to the Holy Land to win 6 more swimming gold medals for the United States, as Tal Brody leads Israel's basketball 5 to its first ever Maccabiah championship. Since 1973, the Maccabiah Games have grown to extraordinary proportions.
I had started my law practice and things were flourishing, and I remember saying in 1985 or early 1986 to my wife, things are good, it's time to give back. And what am I interested in? My interests were State of Israel, sports, young people, and the only thing I could think of at the time were the Maccabiah Games.
As team manager, I oversee all the operations of the U.S. team here, from sports to transportation to problems with our team itself, to running and making sure that all the juniors are settled with Harold, who does the junior team. It's quite encompassing a job.
They gave 3 of us a suite, which is basically a 1-bedroom hotel room. So we got Bradley on the couch, and we got Johnny Ray and myself in the bedroom, but the beds were so close that one morning we woke up holding hands.
We have to coordinate with the Israelis.
Why are they sending someone who doesn't speak English?
The Maccabiah World Union people.
How is he going to know where to pick us up?
We have to coordinate with my managers that are on staff.
They didn't tell you where to go?
We have to coordinate with the hotels we're at and their staffs.
I can't understand you. You're muffled.
We have to make sure that all little problems are resolved before they become big problems.
Speaking to the phone.
Today, for instance, we discussed the closing ceremonies. And we discussed how we're leaving Israel the day after. Now I have to go back and disseminate all that information so everybody knows what's going on.
You know, it's always a challenge to try to work with people from different cultures.
Many cultural differences certainly are present, and things that we sometimes take for granted because we're used to certain customs and practices in America are not necessarily what are the standard of care and practices in another country, and particularly here in Israel.
But then once we got in the pool, everything went the way athletes do.
Kind of grueling, but definitely rewarding.
I got 2 gold in the backstroke and the breaststroke, and then another bronze in the backstroke, 100 meters.
You know, we speak different languages, both literally and metaphorically, but it's been a great experience.
I would never hesitate to come here.
This was a great meet. I did way better than I expected.
I really enjoy what I do, and I've enjoyed this trip immensely. It's my first time in Israel.
It was wonderful to be here to meet all of the Paralympic athletes and to hang out with them.
So it's been nice. It's been real nice.
For my first international competition, it's something I'll never forget.
Sat long after the game, all by myself, silent and still. I said, I gotta learn to do what that man in the crew cut does, or I'll die. And amazingly, I made this happen.
And that did happen, and it was something out of a Hollywood script. And my association with him now dates back to 1964. And for me to perceive that in this day and age, 1990, that I'd be pitching with the king in his court is as baffling as the fact that at 11 I was so taken over by what he had done.
As if his duties on the mound weren't enough, Feigner must often cover first when a lucky batter connects. Even an outfield hit will be retrieved by the infield, which consists of a shortstop and a first baseman. They allow an average of less than 1.5 runs per game.
I got a chance to grow and evolve personally in ways that I never could have any other way. I learned a lot about my family's Jewish heritage and, most importantly, my place in the world.
Team USA actually has made it as part of their program that we bring all the athletes approximately 1 week before actually the games begin, and we take them on a cultural and educational experience through the country of Israel.
And this is our most important modern historical place. In this small room, 65 years ago, on the 14th of May 1948, David Ben-Gurion, he will declare the establishment of the state of Israel.
One of the most touching moments was to be at the Western Wall 2 days before Tisha B'Av, the commemoration of the destruction of the temple, and to be thinking about the continued safety of the state of Israel in that context was so moving for me. It was one of the most sentimental moments that I had in the whole trip.
The first week was we took part in the Israel Connect program, which is something that is just absolutely incredible, where the kids get to tour around Israel and get a feel for what's going on here. And it finished up with a trip to Yad Vashem, so they really understand what this is all about.
Well, since I just came out, I'm really overwhelmed with what I've seen so far, and I'm just amazed with all the stories that the survivors have to tell, and I'm so glad that I've had the experience to listen to them and to be exposed to what I've been exposed to today. This one story was about a man who saw it as that he had to be a predator, and that when he was missing his hat, he stole it from another person so that he wouldn't be shot in the morning when they were lined up in their uniforms. And then the man that he stole the hat from, he was shot, and he thought that that was what he had to do, but of course he has to live with that guilt for the rest of his life.
I didn't know that Holocaust meant like being burned. There were many genocides, but there was only one Holocaust, and I never thought about it like that. It really helped being here with my team too, because we're all like Jewish and we're all friends, and I think that it would have been different had I gone with my friends that aren't Jewish, because they wouldn't have understood as much.
I'm the son of a Holocaust survivor. My mom, Alice, is 89 years old and still kicking and going great. Grew up in Czechoslovakia, and she's a Holocaust survivor. So, although again I'm not religious, it was always a very big part of my heritage. I understood what it was to be a Jew, and I felt very strong about being involved in Maccabi USA. It used to be known as United States Committee Sports for Israel.
What we're doing is something very, very unique. What we have here is building Jewish pride through sports, because that is what we do, and that's what we're all about.
I'll start with the caves, that cave splunking. First thing I thought about when I was cave splunking is how the heck am I going to get out of these caves? My butt barely fit through all these small holes that they had us crawling through. It was a cool experience watching the tour guide explain why these caves were made, what these caves represented, and why the caves were so small. And I guess people were smaller in Israel predate Jesus Christ.
And let them become bonded with not only their fellow teammates, but also with the country itself and with the people of the country.
When we got to Masada, that was an amazing story in itself. Jews jumping off Masada to save themselves from the Romans.
Josephus Flavius, so he describes this is the gateway coming into Masada, which is called the Snake Path Gate.
Just the whole architecture of Masada was amazing.
The rocks which you see here were assembled. These are not hewn stones. And can you see a black line? Can you see a black line? Yes. Wherever you see a black line, beneath the black line is original. On top of the black line is a reconstruction. The reconstruction is for you to get the sense of how it looked like, because it was a pile of stones when the archaeologists came here. You can see here, for instance, a watchtower. So there's a black line just at the bottom. So they reconstructed it so you can understand. This is at the location at the entrance to the northern part. And why is it called the commander's headquarters? Because if you look into the room, you will see it's not a simple room, but it has frescoes. Do you know what's a fresco? A fresco is a technique when you use plaster. You see this is plaster. And when you use the plaster, while the plaster is wet and fresh, al fresco in Italian means fresh. When the plaster is wet, you coat it with color. So go inside, look at the frescoes. If you've been to Italy, to Pompeii, same colors, same period.
It's a very beautiful place, I can say that. Trust me, it's worth all the walking and everything.
I was asked to come to help out with disabled athletes who I've worked with since 1992. It was a great opportunity and I couldn't pass it up. I haven't met a bad person yet.
The very first trip in '85, I mean, you gotta understand. I mean, I've never been to Israel. I did my homework about the country, history ahead of time. But you're in this remarkable place in the world, obviously, and the birthplace of the three of the major religions, and you know everything that represents Israel is huge historically.
And then the Dead Sea. After a week of wrestling practice, my knees were cut up, my face was cut up. I mean, it was cool floating around, but every second you're in there, every part of your body is burning.
The Dead Sea is receding very quick, and it's very tragic because we don't have any inflow of water coming into the Dead Sea. There used to be the Jordan River flowing into the Dead Sea. Today the Jordan River is dammed, therefore all the drinking water we have in Israel, it comes only from one place, from the Sea of Galilee up north. So the Dead Sea doesn't get any water no more. Therefore, the Dead Sea is literally dying. In the future, they're thinking of a project to pump some water from the Red Sea. The Red Sea comes from the Reed Sea, R-E-E-D. And along the centuries, probably one he fell. The number one site for tourists coming to Israel is not Jerusalem, is the Dead Sea. We get over 3 million people coming to the Dead Sea annually.
Before we even go on a ball field, we get to see a great bit of the country, including one of my favorite cities in the world, which is Jerusalem. It's my favorite city for all kinds of reasons. The walks through there are incredible. The history, you know, the Muslim part, the Christian part, as well as the Jewish part. They're all profoundly important to the history of everyone. And so it's not just going to an ISC tournament in Kimberly, Wisconsin, which is a beautiful thing too, or to Sioux City, Iowa, or St. Joseph, Missouri. You're playing your game in Tel Aviv, Israel, on the Mediterranean. You're next to Egypt. You're a stone's throw from the Mediterranean. You're playing in Gezer, which is read the Bible. It's a very historical part of Israel. That between Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, you're playing where history was made. So for me, the more I think about it now, the more amazing that becomes. And the fact that I have had a chance to do this with my friends for so long is beyond words.
This whole experience has been absolutely amazing. I know I've said this far too much already, but oh my gosh, I just want to thank all the people who helped support me with my fundraising for getting here. It's been a long road to get here, and go USA, I guess.
We're in Israel, the promised land. We're at the camp. We're at a Bedouin village. A Bedouin tent.
We just had a beautiful dinner.
Bringing home the gold. Men's tennis. I want the gold. Give me the gold.
I think I need to stop for a second and really think about all of the things that I've learned.
because I have learned so much. And it's been an amazing experience, and it's so impressive to me to think about all of the things that I've learned in just such a short time.
They come here for sports, but they learn so much more as a result of being exposed to Israel for that 2.5 to 3 week period. And that's what we're very, very proud of.
I did have a little understanding, picking my dad's brain for knowledge about the Jewish faith, but until I got there to Israel, I really didn't understand what it meant to be Jewish. For me, what it means to be Jewish is that you're not the only one that is Jewish. You feel a connection, almost like everyone that's Jewish is family. Jewish is family. Jewish is family.
He's certainly cut from a cloth that I wasn't that accustomed to. You know, he still was sporting his Marine style haircut. You know, he's very all business kind of guy. You know, he's just really cut from a different period, a kind of, you know, representative period of Americana that's really bygone, and I think that's part of the beauty a lot of people want to remember.
For comedy relief, we've got the routines of Gary West. I can't really describe to you how funny this man really is, but I guarantee that when Gary does his stuff, you'll see a combination of comedy and ball playing unmatched by anybody on the circuit today.
Give me there, big fella. Over there.
Over there?
Yeah, don't drop me too hard. Hey.
You were to Sandy Koufax, a fast-pitch softball. Period. Done and done. And then in August of 2010, an incredible catastrophe hit you. Why don't you tell us about that?
Well, our Maccabi USA team was traveling to play in the over 40 national championships, and it was in Prescott, Arizona. I live in Santa Monica, so me and 2 teammates were driving on a Thursday night up through the mountains, winding up to Prescott in Arizona. We were about 50 miles from Prescott, and a tactical error by the driver of my car that I was a passenger in got us caught in a head-on collision.
Well, the night of the accident is obviously really one of the saddest moments of my life for many reasons, and it's one of those situations where if you've ever been in a life-threatening situation, you always just sort of wonder, why did it go down the way it did? And the only thing I can say is I was very lucky.
And it was a lane in each direction, just one lane north, one lane south. Mm-hmm. Then there's an exit, and it changes at that exit to 2 lanes north and 2 lanes south, okay? Then as soon as you get close to just after that exit, the roads kind of split, and the 2 southbound lanes disappear behind a mountain. So now you're on one direction, 2 northbound lanes, after you've driven for about 8 miles like this. And right when we got past that exit, the thing that really was the problem was that the driver then realized at that point in time we were out of gas. We were below empty. And you don't see anything in front of you. There's no lights, no indication where the next gas station might be. We don't even know if we're in cell phone range because we're in a mountain area. So thinking we were still actually on a 2-directional road, when we were really now on a 1-directional road, we pulled over on the shoulder, did a U-turn. We made it back to 3/10 of a mile from the exit that had the gas station, and just as we got to that point, an SUV coming 60 miles an hour hammered us.
I heard about Dave's accident the next morning after it happened. We were waiting for Dave and 2 teammates to join us at the 40 and over national tournament in Prescott, Arizona, up in the mountains of Prescott. And we finally learned from one of Dave's teammates, who was also in the accident and was less seriously injured, though injured himself, about the severity of his and Ronnie Rupp's injuries, and that Dave was really at death's door. They'd flown him down to my hometown, which is Phoenix, Arizona. And it was overwhelming. I went there to the hospital with a teammate and saw Dave in the intensive care unit, and it was a a horrific, nightmarish experience, and that is troubling to talk about, or hard for me to talk about even now.
And it was a bad one because we were in a Toyota Camry and the SUV hit us. And I broke 27 bones, severed my colon, got lumbosacral plexus nerve damage. I was in a coma for 54 days.
Dave's life hung in a balance for many days and weeks, and in the time that he was in the coma, no one knew if he was going to live, and if he did, who was going to come out of that coma. Was it going to be Dave, or was it going to be somebody who we didn't know anymore, really?
The accident occurred, and I think for a long portion of time, I was concussed and dazed and confused and sort of wandering on the side of the road. And when I finally came to my senses, the first thing I realized is I had my dog's leash in my hand and wondering, where is she? And next thing I realized, she's with me. And then I'm just kind of wandering around the side of the road, and still the magnitude of what had happened never really came to me until they actually had to force me to go on a wooden plank and a stretcher to the hospital.
Everybody's really shocked. We started to direct all our emails to everybody around the world, actually. And the worry was there that, everybody say he was unconscious and that he was in coma, and, we did not know what was going to happen.
The word must have gotten out by the line of cars that were stacking up on the side of the road. Somebody called 911, I'm sure. And I think the first responders, if I'm correct calling them that, were there within minutes, because at this point in time I had pretty much just gotten up towards the road where they were restricting people from walking up towards where Dave and Ronnie were. And they took, I believe, Ronnie away by helicopter first. And because Dave was, the combined weight of the two was larger than one helicopter could take, they actually had to bring back a second helicopter for a breeder. And then once they flew, which was sort of the strangest experience I've ever seen in my life, because I was on my back on this flat board and the helicopter flew right over the top of me, and next thing you know, just they were gone.
There's only really one thing that can describe the feeling that I had when I heard about the accident. I didn't really know much of the details of the accident at the very, very beginning, but it was a weight. It was just, oh my God. Now I have this mentor of mine who got me into life in fast pitch now has he's taken a fall.
And spent 10 months in the hospital. And it affected my life tremendously because I lost my ability to walk. I've been in a wheelchair ever since I got out of the hospital after 10 months. And I subsequently lost my right leg.
So I go to the hospital, I see Dave, he's looking terrific. I couldn't believe the color in his face. He had a smile on his face, and I felt so much better that he was so much better than I had heard, even though I know he was going to have a tough time ahead of him.
So life changed drastically for me, and I went from 33 years of pitching softball around the world to not even being able to walk across the room.
The community rallied around us to the point where I don't think there was any way that anybody there wanted us to lose, including the host teams and the other teams. And every game it just seemed like something happened and made happen by somebody who was so close to Dave that it was like a movie. One game it might have been Paul Rubin, who's from Arizona and is Dave's longtime friend and teammate. And in several games it was Tony Khan, who is of course Dave's longtime teammate and the catcher on the 09 team. And then it was just the spirit of the community.
To what do you attribute your intestinal fortitude to be able to overcome such an obstacle?
Well, when people ask me that, I got a pretty straight, easy answer for them, and that is that I could have died 100 ways in that car accident. I can easily list 100 different ways where one little teeny thing that was different and I would have died. And I didn't. Miracles of miracles brought me out of there alive. And the fact that I am alive keeps me smiling every day, counting my blessings.
Is tough, but David being the competitor David is, that's why he's here today, competing in another sport. And that's what makes David David. My wife would always say, make lemonade out of lemons, and that's what David's doing. And there isn't anybody else who's making better lemonade than David right now. And again, I respect David. I love David, and that's why I'm here, just to say hello and just tell him how much he means to me.
And to see him now, recovered, maybe he'll never walk again, but he's got his spirit, he's got his sense of humor. He's got his love of life. I don't know if anybody loves life more than Dave, and I know nobody loves it more than Dave right now since the accident, and appreciates it more.
What I've been mostly impressed with is that Dave has responded in a way to contribute back. Out of all the challenges he's faced over the last few years with the injuries and the physical stuff that he's been dealing with, he still continues to give back emotionally and intellectually, and from a guidance perspective, all these young people coming into the program. And I tell you, that's a really special person that can allow himself to separate himself from his own limitations and challenges and to constantly give back. But that's Dave Blackburn in a nutshell.
I went down to see Dave Blackburn in Los Angeles last November, and what I was expecting to see was some guy who was, really down in the dumps and was feeling sorry for himself and just, having his arm wrapped around the memory in the past and talking about all that. But no, Dave Blackburn was a guy who was very up in spirits. He was nothing but positive and just thinking about the future. And I was just so, I wouldn't even say amazed, I was so happy to see how he had taken his life to the positive and said, you know what, this is an experience, I'm alive, I'm here, let's see what I can do with this and move forward in a positive way. And wow, I was so inspired by the way he the spirits he was in.
He's been a tremendous inspiration for all who have known him, for all who have just come to meet him, to see and to show how precious life is, and that in spite of what comes your way, which you never can count on, there is always a ray of sunshine that sometimes can occur if you're of the mind to grab it.
This was truly the greatest show on dirt, outlasting 14 presidents. Wars are all over the world, political, social, movements in our American culture. Major corporations came and went, and yet for 65 years the doors were open. The last of the great barnstormers, the end of Americana. Long live the king.
I don't know, it just made me think of what it must have been to live in, during the time of Eisenhower and JFK.
I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the earth.
He seemed to live and breathe that period in our history.
No single space project in this period will be more impressive to mankind or more important for the long-range exploration of space.
Radar guns were far in the future. But on the day after the court beat the Tip-Top Tailors at the Canadian National Exposition in 1950, scientists at the University of Windsor, Ontario, near Detroit, used new high-speed military cameras intended for use in ballistics to check the speed of Eddie's fastball. After 40 pitches, filming from all angles, they concluded that the King was throwing over 104 miles an hour.
The newest member of the King's Court is the great catcher from the pro leagues in Western Canada, Les Barber. Les makes catching me look easy.
So I said to David, I just want you to be aware that in 2+ years, you're going to be coming with us to Israel as a member of Team USA, and you're going to be marching into Teddy Stadium. Even if Jeff Buchanan had to carry you on his shoulders, you're going to be marching into that stadium with us.
I've been invited to Israel in the summer of 2013 to throw out the ceremonial first pitch of the softball tournament of the 19th World Maccabea Games.
Dave is not only going to march in with us, but he's going to be one of our flag bearers because he's participating in our disabled table tennis program as one of our premier athletes, as he's always been in the softball field.
The color in the pageantry of the opening games is just memorable.
I'll tell you one of the things that have moved me quite a bit and inspired me is seeing David Blackburn here at these games.
And we were all very, very happy for him to be here. We think it's a great honor to have him here. He's such a Maccabean person over the years.
He fought his injuries and he fought everything like he fought the ball game. And he was determined to win at the end, and David Blackburn did win. And if I have to ask about an inspiration, I would give it to my friend David Blackburn. Absolutely. He's even though he's from the U.S.
And I just hope he gets out of it what he expects and it helps him with his life. And that's more important than anything else.
What is that? Here in Jerusalem in the ancient city. Biggest honor of my life.
Please the Lord, but you don't really care for music, do ya? When it goes like this, the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall, and major lift, the baffled king composes hallelujah. Sing with me.
Not really so much the details of the person that made him do what he did, but it was what he actually did, and that in itself is a huge tribute to the man.
As for my role in the show, I naturally have the modest title of the King. Of course, that's what the other people who see the act call me. Actually, my name really was King. Here are some samples of just what I do in our show. If you've not seen our show, I think you ought to come see it. We're going to be playing against a very fine nine-man team made up of local ball players here this week.
And it's our last 100-city tour, 2011, and we're going back to all the places that made us famous. We're going to crisscross the United States from coast to coast, play the South and Pacific Northwest, Mid-Atlantic, the Midwest, before we take it home to Walla Walla. What made us so natural, so famous, so original, such a phenomenon, before there was all this cable, was we were in small town America every night, playing against the local all-stars, selling our wares and fares where we were sweating on you after the game, and going back to wherever you were going to feed us to be a part of your community. Those stories got big. What it did was it took this team around the world to 100 countries, some 14,000 games. That man was in almost every one, the guy with the crew cut. Personally for me, it was a 30-year journey that took me to over 40 countries, and I performed in over 6,500 games. Dreams come true. I'm living testimony.
His life is an ongoing performance art piece of the highest magnitude.
Just these amazing mosaic art pieces and design.
Fantasy architecture. It's Gaudi meets Zorba the Greek in a Jewish world.
What he did was with the junk and the glass and the stones he would find to develop an incredible house.
Dave Blackburn and I decided to take a city bus out to the beach. We go up to Herzliya, 10-15 miles north of Tel Aviv. Get off the bus and just walk on the beach. We had no particular direction. We were just having a good time, BSing and just looking at the sights. We then find this incredible wonderland that turns out to be the home of Nissim, and we introduced ourselves. I think we had a cold beer with him. We heard some of his story. He sat and talked to us, and then by the end of the day, we spent hours with him. He invited us to bring the guys back at a later date.
I was invited once to come with the American team, and my little brother also, and it was an experience. It was a whole experience.
I remember Nissim and his pride in putting together this house of caves, and how he brought us into his house and made us feel welcome and showed us the work that he's done over his lifetime building this beautiful home.
Oh, and you didn't know about this house?
No.
You never heard of Nissim?
No. I come here sometimes and I see it, but I have no idea what it is.
Yeah, all the groups of the softball come here. We give good time, man. Drink beer, eat hummus, making good salad. You know, I love the place. I have good music. We need more. We go to the water, come back, take some water from the well.
Any trip I take to Israel just wouldn't be complete if I didn't see him. He's about to give Brian and Landon a tour of his beach cave.
Why not?
When Dave told me about this man Nissim, I was kind of skeptical at the fact that this man actually existed. Apparently, over a span of 40 years, Nissim built this cave structure which turned out to be his home. Over 40 years, a man by himself built just about 4 levels of just caves and sculptures, just these amazing mosaic art pieces and designs. He's got to have about maybe 20 rooms of long tunnels. Some of them are barely resonant because he smoothed out the chambers. Some of them are very dead because the walls are rigid and you can hardly hear a thing.
It was all handmade. He would take a bucket and fill a bucket with dirt and dump it out to the sea and just go back and take more buckets, and it would just take hours and hours, just man-made and just with a chisel and just with a shovel, and just it was all done man-made. It was just all just hard labor, and to shake hands with him, it's like holding on to a vice. Just his hands of steel, just amazing man, strong and just again a genius, just an architectural genius.
So much to take in. When did you start it?
What?
How long ago? What year did you start building?
14 years.
14 years.
40.
40.
40 years. Yeah. When I come here, people say this guy is crazy. Now, look at him. He take the mountain, motherfucking. I walk all day here. What am I doing? All the stone you see here, I go down in the pocket, I collect them from the beach, I bring him up, I wash him, I put it. The engineer of the town come here, he said, tell me one thing, how you put the stone? I tell him with silicone, he believe me, he's such an idiot, he don't understand, you know. I have here American people, you know, very old people, 80 something, you know. He said, listen, I didn't believe it, I feel like I'm dreaming, I didn't believe it's real, you know. You know, this make you excited, you know, it's nice, people respect. Look, go see the shower, Here you see everything what I find, I put it and I make roof, I make floor, I make chair, I make stairs.
What did you do with everything you dig out?
You know, I throw.
Just throw it in the ocean?
If you put salt in the soup, you find the salt, disappear. The sea blow it. The fucking stupid build the marina there, and the marina fuck all the beach. All the sand, I used to have a beach here for...
I saw a picture.
50 meters, you know, big beach. You know, all the sand go there the beach get 500 meters, like a desert, you know. And here the beach gets smaller and always the mountain fall because the waves hit the mountain. And
is it hard to carve this, or? Yeah?
Yeah, take the pig and try.
You got a pick onto it?
Here used to be coffee, you see? This used to be kitchen.
Oh, this is my other house. Oh, my Lord. This is where he used to have the restaurant.
I love the craftsmanship of his place. He's found objects, the sea glass, and using buoys and found driftwood, and to make something like that was magical. Getting there and being comfortable with Nassim and finding that camaraderie off the field was amazing. Nassim had caught some fish apparently with his bare hands right out there in the coral reef.
Catches his own fish in the ocean, brings it back. Did it for us. Caught some fish, brought them back, grilled them on some kind of grill for us, and you know, I mean, you talk about a life well lived. You're talking about Nassim.
You used to smell the fish in the air. So much fish used to be here. But people shot, kill, take, no rules, no nothing. Everybody fucked up. You catch grouper, you know, this big. It must be 10 kilo. You catch them this big. I said, listen, why you kill baby? Let them grow, let them make baby, and you can eat them. What the fuck?
He brought them back, and they were sitting there raw on a chopping block, and Dave, I believe, challenged me to bite the fish head off. I did so.
Ah, you're crazy because you bite the head off the fish. Right there, you catch him in the water, you cook him up on the grill, you bite the head, you're crazy. Hey, I know you're crazy, man.
Nassim all of a sudden lauded me and felt a great amount of respect for me, that I could be a man of the sea like him.
And actually gelled our team in '85, so I kind of contribute, or kind of give him the love as much as Dave Blackburn for winning us the gold medal that year.
It's all part of the preparation. Every bit as much as working on bunting drills, sliding drills, defensive drills, offensive drills, pitching drills, batting practice, infield, outfield, wind sprints, you name it. This is just as much a part of the preparation, baby. Nah, I'm going to sleep.
To use the word iconoclastic is probably doesn't cut it. He's a legendary character in Israel, both hated by the government, as he would say, and loved by the average guy.
I built the dinosaur. The first house is dinosaur. I built it 1 year. And I got letter from a guy when he want to knock it down. I said, listen, I have 1 month and a half time. So make some small cave. You can't break the mountain. So if you break the house, I'm gonna live here. And the day come and he didn't break the house, and the cave cave. And I wanna make it floor like in the house, you know, and make it. It's a beautiful place here. but he didn't have enough money to finish it, you know.
You got some tile.
But you need power. I can. My legs fucked up, my back fucked up. He needs some helper, you know. You can't do it by yourself. I can do it, but somebody to help me. By yourself, it's 2 weeks ago, my knees, you know, swollen like a balloon. I have infection here. I take a pills. 1 week, I'm in the bed. 1 week. Nobody give me a glass of water, you know. So if I stay in my knees all day, make the floor, what's the rest? They're gonna fuck it up. What's in the water? Look. Cold.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And this is fresh water?
Fresh water.
Wow. Not salt water?
This is such an awesome scene. He's got well water now. He's building this ark. He's building the Ark of Noah. And when it all comes to bringing the animals in 2 by 2, we're going to be here, baby. With the gold. We'll be here with the gold. Thank you very much.
He's an architectural genius. He's just artistic, architectural savant.
Forget South Beach, forget Venice Beach, forget any little artsy, craftsy place you've ever been to.
And he's kind of like a one-off, and when he goes, I wonder what will happen to that beautiful place.
This is art as life and life as art. It's joining the two. It exists, it lives, it breathes. It is a lot. This guy's amazing. And yet it all seems so natural.
Will you ever be finished?
When I die, I finish.
And the best way I could describe it as is that he is the most interesting man in the world.
I ended up throwing 1,800 games over a 33-year period and got to go to 10 different countries to pitch. It's quite an experience.
We would play a lot of catch in the front yard, and every time Dave would throw the ball well past me, I remember I would yell at him in German and tell him, "Lauf," run after the ball. There was, I guess that was one way you learn how to work on trying to hit the catcher's mitt if you're the one who has to chase the ball 10, 15 houses down the block. He had a lot of speed, so the ball kept rolling and rolling and rolling, and Dave kept running and running and running for a long time.
Then there's J.R. Feigner. If the name sounds familiar to you, it's because J.R. is my son. But he is not a member of the King's Court because we're related. J.R. happens to be one of the best hitters.
I'm gaining more and more friends around the world.
On the field, there's an intense rivalry. Developed a great bond with my teammates.
It's a relationship for the rest of your life.
Being friends with one another and getting to know each other.
But when it comes to being off the field, we're all one.
That's the beauty of it, are the friendships and people that I can count on.
Yeah, I've been with this program for going on 25 years now, and it's for the first team that went to Israel in 1985, and it's been, as I told my guys this morning, it's been the most single rewarding athletic experience I've ever had. The camaraderie is unparalleled. The ball playing is top notch, and basically the entirety of the experience, the global experience, is so overwhelming that it's kept me coming back probably past my shelf life.
You know, on the field, there's an intense rivalry. And you know, you really, in effect, you hate the other teams. But when it comes to being off the field, we're all one. and we're bonded, you know, with our heritage. And to play here in this country, it's almost spiritual in a way.
It started off basically with somewhere to go play softball. Didn't realize how it would affect me till I got here the first time in 1985. Then once being in Israel, I felt some special attachment, not only to the country but to the people, and developed a great bond with my teammates.
The camaraderie is great. It's a relationship for the rest of your life, as long as you nurture it like any other relationship. And I just thought that it was one of the highlights of my baseball / softball, fast pitch softball career.
Argentina had a group of 3 brothers named the Rosenblums. And the Rosenblums were fantastic energy, really positive guys. And I used to tell for years about how they would announce him at the games. It was Enrique Guadalupe Rosenblum. And everybody had a great laugh of that because there wasn't a great deal of understanding in South America. There are many Jews that live there. Well, then when I came back in 2007 to Argentina, they had us at their home. And we had a barbecue together, and we hugged, and we sang, and we had a little bit of wine together. And it was all that connection that started in 1993. And now in 2013, it's the same thing. We reconnect with all of our brothers around the world, from Mexico, from Argentina, from Israel, from Canada, and we revisit those friendships, and friendships that I had in 1993 from the USA that I didn't retain until I came back in the program. So I have to say that it's been a very enriching experience for me in my heart, both from a Jewish perspective and also just from a friendship perspective. And it's an experience I can never replicate or that I could ever really put into words effectively.
Compete on the field as Jewish athletes, competing against each other as countries, but on top of that, being friends with one another and getting to know each other.
I'm gaining more and more friends around the world, and you know, we're playing in Israel against people from Venezuela and Mexico, and these are friends of mine, and I can go to their house, stay with them, we drink and eat together, and we have wonderful times.
That's the beauty of it, are the friendships and people that I can count on without thinking twice about it for the rest of my life.
I have to tell you that, you know, the softball is one thing, and I love softball, but it's more than the softball, a lot more than the softball. Now to come this year to see my son play open and my daughter play junior volleyball, that's amazing, and I wanted my whole family to be here to see that. To be Jewish and to come here as a whole family is really something special, and have memories of this for the rest of my days.
Obviously, the competition that we've built up with the U.S. has been one of the strong factors to come back. Now I'm fortunate enough to come back to see my son playing in the open division of softball, so that's going to draw me back for many years to come.
You know, I've made friends that to this date I'll call up, and we've just have great conversations, and people that I can depend on in a way, whether it's issues of family or business or any kind of challenges in life. I feel really close to many of the players, and we keep up with each other, and I can literally almost travel the country and stay with friends from the Maccabee experience.
My involvement has to do primarily, however, that this is much more than sports, because if it was only a sports program, I would have done it once, maybe twice. But it's the Jewish solidarity, the building Jewish pride through sports, that's important to me.
When we went to Israel in 1985 with basically 3 or 4 fast pitch players, and I mean real fast pitch players, and a good pitcher, I had no idea how we were going to fare against Canada or what the whole trip was going to be about.
Just competing for the United States and getting a chance to meet so many wonderful people and playing with so many great athletes from this country and against other athletes from all over the world has been just a great experience for me.
It became clear on the very first day of competition that at the end of the day, the U.S. was going to be playing Canada for the gold medal. It was an immense learning curve for everybody that was, everyone that was part of that first team in '85. They had played together much of their adult lives. So I knew we had our hands full with Canada and with their #1 pitcher, Mark Bendahan, who threw very hard.
I think we only heard from Dave one time when he called and said he won the gold medal.
It came down to, it was the third game we were playing Canada. We had split the first 2 games. We're going to play them for the championship, the gold medal. Big crowd. They said upwards of 5,000 or 6,000 people there. They were lined up on the both foul lines and loudly cheering for their respective teams. There were luminaries in the crowd. We had Lou Gossett Jr., the actor, in the dugout who had taken to us.
The games that stick out the most are the gold medal games. The first game in 1985 when we beat Canada, and the gold medal game in 1989 when we beat Canada again 1-0.
We were decided underdogs in that whole tournament, and which made it sweeter that Dave Blackburn, who didn't throw nearly as hard as Bendahan and wasn't as flashy, actually threw the shutout.
We all cheered in the house. We all had a tremendous amount of pride that Davey was the lead pitcher on a team that would win a gold medal in a world tournament.
And it was Bendahan versus Blackburn, and it was a scoreless game until the top of the 5th inning, and it was no one was hitting the ball at all. I mean, it was basically a strikeout fest for both guys. And I got a hit, Marty Rubinoff got a hit, and Neil Kabanoff with me on third base and Marty on second hit a ball that went over the fence and hooked foul.
Canada claimed it was foul, and that's been like a
contention,
bone of contention since 1985.
The longest umpire call I've ever seen. He waited and waited and waited, and then went fair ball, and it was fair. I had a good angle on it.
Of course, I think Tommy Batcher, the now president of Maccabi Canada, spoke to somebody who knew Dave very well, and he said, please give Dave a message, and the message was short and sweet. It was foul.
Well, Dave Blackburn threw an awesome game. You could tell that his heart was totally in that game, and the entire team wanted to be as good as Dave Blackburn was pitching and win the game for the United States and to support Dave Blackburn in that.
It was an exceptional game, as all the Canada-U.S. games were. None of them were blowouts. None of them were easy games. It was a hit here, a hit there, an error here, an error there could make the difference in the game.
I always said that ball was the key that opened every door. And though I never achieved fame or fortune, I got to play thousands upon thousands of games around the world because of what affected me as a young boy. It wouldn't go away. It never did. Matter of fact, at 65, the passion still burned because I got to do it. I breathed it. It was my life. And it's what connected me to Dave Blackburn, because he was doing the same thing. Very few times that we ever played against each other, and it was blood and guts. It was for real, but a kinship and a respect.
He actually asked me to tour with them, and to this day, maybe one of the regrets I have that I should have followed through and at least had that experience of touring with the king of this court.
Of course, we don't want to forget his playing days. Dave, a veteran of a couple of decades, pitched with the Maccabi team, gold medal winner over in the Maccabi games in Israel. Dave pitched in many national and world tournaments over the years, but I think when it's all said and done, it'll be his work in pioneering streaming audio and video broadcast that he'll be remembered for. He pitched more than 1,800 games over 30-plus seasons, with a particular fondness for his 10 international Maccabea games, where he is the only softball player with 4 gold medals.
I think his buddies called him a breeder reactor because he would build up and build up and build up and just explode with the softball.
Dave was inducted into the ISC Hall of Fame in 2011, just a few years ago, for his contributions to men's fast pitch, that is, his work in streaming audio and video broadcasting.
Now, one of the things that Dave wanted to do is apply his knowledge of technology towards bringing into the modern century the ability for one of the organizations he worked with, the International Softball Association, to broadcast their games and to videotape and edit their games for distribution later.
And it turned out he was a bit of Nostradamus, seeing things before they happened. When I got there, as I said, it was a phone line, a dial-up modem, laptop, and a couple of headsets. A very windy day in Lancaster, but that gave rise to some test broadcasts in Salt Lake City about a month later. And then a month after that, lo and behold, the ISC World Tournament.
Yeah, well, when we first got started, we were experimenting. I think he wanted to reach the low-hanging fruit in terms of whether there was anything that could be done initially with audio and then with a single camera, and then with a single camera plus audio from a number of feeds where other people could be talking and reviewing what was going on in the game from that single camera point of view.
One of the things that sticks in my mind from that day, Fred, that Dave said, we were just getting audio broadcasting off the ground. And he couldn't help thinking beyond that before the audio was even off the ground. He said, I think someday we're going to be sitting here streaming video of the game.
We came up with a pretty interesting solution where all the equipment could be placed in one very durable shipping container and then shipped out in advance and then set up quite easily by a single person if need be.
This was before Mark Cuban and the NBA did the video streaming. It was before MLB was doing streaming. And Dave was looking into the future and seeing the prospects, and now it has come to fruition.
I trained Dave how to organize all the cables and what got plugged into what and how the various systems had to be set up or turned on in order to be connected, so we could accomplish a multi-camera shoot that had cameras in the field that were broadcasting live to a switching unit, and he could run the switching unit and change the camera points of view and be a broadcaster doing the play-by-play, as well as run the audio board with other broadcasters that were in the room working with him, and add some more personalities to the event.
I also ended up in 3 softball halls of fame. I became the first American player to be inducted into the Israel Softball Hall of Fame, and I received the highest honor in the sport, where I was inducted into the International Softball Congress Hall of Fame in August of 2012.
54 years later, Labor Day weekend 2011, Walla Walla, Washington, the birthplace of the legendary king and his court. I'm now age 65. My daughter's in attendance. In front of a packed house with hand-picked ball players, I would pitch and then retire for the last time the fabulous original 4-man softball team, the king and his court.
I use my right arm as a passport to see the world, just like my idol, Eddie Feigner.
Dave, it was when we first heard, I was just totally in shock. But now seeing him, Dave's looking good. He's in good spirits, and he should just keep it up.
What's about to happen in the next few minutes?
In the next few minutes, we are going to be honoring Dave as one of our own of the softball, and we are going to be officially, from the Israel Softball, officially retiring number 7 from all Maccabi eyes. No one will be able to wear the number 7 shirt.
Okay, we're going to be taking Dave out, and he's going to get his honor today at the 19th Maccabi Eye Games. He doesn't know nothing about it, and I'm sure it's going to be a big surprise for him. All he thought he was doing today was throwing out the first ball.
On behalf of the Israel Softball Association, we are now retiring for all Maccabi games from now and forward, Masters and Men, shirt number 7.
Dave Blackburn had the heart and the soul. He was the heart and soul of our team. This whole team right here, none of us would be standing here. Freddie Cohn, who saved our program, Mike Goldman, all these guys over here, and the Canadian guys who I love dearly, would not be here if it wasn't for Dave Blackburn.
And now we'll be hanging in our stadium, reminding us of one of the greatest athletes that gave his best with this sport. Please, all bearers of number 7, come forward.
Much more important than your achievements on your field were the friendships that you made off the field. And I ask everyone here to give Dave a big hug. God bless you, Dave.
Your story is an inspiration for everybody, and not just in the Maccabi games, but anybody. And you know, you have to have great pride in that.
Well, I do. I mean, I'm really proud of the fact that I didn't let this put me in the dumps. It didn't make me hide under the covers every day. I'm trying to stay enjoying the things I can still enjoy, learning to enjoy new things that I didn't used to be able to enjoy or didn't know about, and learn to live without those things that I used to really enjoy that I just can't partake in anymore. But I've, like I said, with the help of a lot of strong friends and family, I've been able to keep a stiff upper lip, as they say.
You're an inspiration to all of us, Dave.
Thanks, Steve.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate your time. Life is the most precious thing that we have. No matter what else is taken from you, you can count your blessings every day.
He's always the big right-hander. We nicknamed him the big right-hander because he was the big right-hander. He was the icon of Maccabi softball. He was the gentle giant.
go to Mexico, all the way to Tokyo. You go to New York City, all the way to and the choices that you make, that's the road you take. You go around the world and back again, but you never go nowhere where you will find a brother there, someone with the Lord seems to help you along. Those been quite a road, all the way to where you're told. Your soul can rest from this journey it's on. Trust in the Lord. Trust in the Lord. They can make it easy what once seemed so hard. Trust in the Lord. Trust in the Lord.
I remember when LOL meant lots of loving. I remember when a mouse was a rodent name. I remember when a cursor was a sailor name. I remember when your cell was a tiny thing inside your body. I remember when your Facebook was in your head. I remember when a text is what you read inside a book. I remember when a PowerPoint was a pen. I remember when a tweet was what a bird did. I remember when LOL meant lots of love. LOL means laugh out loud now. LOL is laugh out loud now. Lots of love is a laugh out loud now.
Davey said,
Then we're going to wander for 40 years in the desert before we find the opening ceremonies.